Well, this is a poster of the 3 civil rights workers who were killed by Klansmen in Mississippi in 1964. One of them is James Chaney. I visited his grave, and the inscription says, "There are those who are alive, yet will never live. Those who are dead, yet will live forever. Great deeds inspire and encourage the living." I'm here to tell you about 2 men whose lives inspire and encourage us all, Medgar Evers and Vernon DeMille. Medgar Evers fought in World War II against the Nazis. Came home, had to fight more racism when he got home, barring African Americans from voting, restaurants, even restrooms. On the same night, President Kennedy spoke to America about how the grandsons of slaves were still not free. A Klansman shot Medgar Evers in the back. His wife and children ran outside and screamed. 27 years later, I'm standing with this assassin, Byron D. LeBeckwith. The reason I came to interview him was basically I was obsessed. I don't know if you're like me, but if someone tells me I can't have something, I want it like 1,000,000 times worse. Are y'all that way? And so there's like 132,000 pages of these secret spy agency records, segregation of spy agency records in Mississippi. And they were all sealed for 50 years. I wanted them. And so I set out to get them. And what they showed was at the same time the state of Mississippi was prosecuting Beckwith for killing Medgar Evers, this other arm of the state, the spy agency, was secretly assisting the defense, trying to get him acquitted. My story ran on October 1st, 1989. At the time the story ran, the odds were literally more than 1,000,000 to 1 against the case ever being re-prosecuted. There was no murder weapon, no evidence, no trial transcript. But Medgar Evers believed, and some amazing things happened. A couple of months later, Jackson police are cleaning out a closet, happened to find a box that contained crime scene photographs of the killing of Medgar Evers, including the fingerprint of Byron D. LeBeckwith lifted from the murder weapon. A couple of months later, she shared with me her copy of the trial transcript, and a couple of months after that, the prosecutor found the murder weapon in his father-in-law's closet. Sounds like I'm making it up, I know, but really, it all really happened. This is why I'm in journalism. But anyway, I visited Mr. Beckwith at his home in Signal Mountain, Tennessee, and my wife had told me not to come. Said he was going to kill me, said this was a trap. Because, see, he didn't know I'd written the stories, got the case reopened, you see? So, at least I thought so. So, we talked for about 6 hours. One racist ran after another. Got ready to go. He insisted on, it's really dark by this point, he insisted on walking me out to the car, and I'm like, really? That's okay. I think I can find my way. So he walks me out to the car and gets me out of the car anyway, says, "You see that boy over there?" He said, "If you write positive things about white Caucasian Christians, God will bless you. If you write negative things about white Caucasian Christians, God will punish you. If God does not punish you directly, several individuals will do it for him." And so his wife had made me a sandwich. I think you can guess what I did with the sandwich. Byron D. LeBeckwith was convicted on February 5th, 1994. And when the word guilty rang out, waves of joy cascaded down the hall until they reached this foyer full of people who just exploded in cheers, including Medgar Evers and her daughter. And in that moment, I realized that the impossible had just become possible. And the same is true for your lives. The impossible can become possible. And I realized in that moment, as I was thinking about it, is there are hundreds of other cases like this where people were killed and got away with it in the civil rights era. Several months after Beckwith was arrested, I went and visited Ellie Damer. She's a widow of Vernon DeMille, who was an NAACP leader, farmer. She wept as she talked about him. He was dedicated to voting rights. The Klan hated that, attacked him and his family in the middle of the night, January 10th, 1966. Klan firebombed the house, began firing their guns into the house. Vernon DeMille woke up, grabbed his shotgun, ran to the front of the house, began firing back at the Klansmen so that his family could escape safely out a back window. Unfortunately, the flames of the fire seared his lungs, and he died later that day. A few weeks later in the mail came his voter registration card. He had fought his whole life for the right of all Americans to vote, but never been able to cast a ballot himself. He had 4 sons in the military, and that's what they came home to. The guy who ordered that was a guy by the name of Sam Bowers, the head of the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan of Mississippi, most violent Klan organization in the United States. And this was the guy who turned state's evidence. He was caught, he was involved in Billy Roy Pitts. He was caught, dropped his gun, turned state's evidence, pleaded guilty to murder. And what I found out in 1998 was he had never served a single day of his life sentence. Pretty big oversight, wouldn't you say? So I didn't know where he was. No one knew where he was. So I got on the internet and typed in his name, and up it popped, Billy Roy Pitts, his address, Denham Springs, Louisiana, and his telephone number. So I called him. First 20 minutes of the conversation went like this. How'd you find me? How'd you find me? How'd you find me? It's on the internet. So as a result of my story, the Mississippi authorities issued a warrant for his arrest. Remember, he hadn't served a day of his life sentence. So he didn't like that. In fact, he ran. And while he was on the run, he mailed me this cassette tape, and I played it and said, Jerry, I just thought I'd let you know you've ruined my life. But I promised if I talked to anybody, I'd talk to you. So here's this tape, and his tape proceeds to tell me all about his involvement in killing Vernon DeMille, all about his involvement in all this other Klan violence. So he turns himself into authorities, and this now leads to the arrest of Sam Bowers and his right-hand guy by the name of Devers Nix. And Devers was the head of, and I swear I'm not making this up, the Klan Bureau of Investigation. And this is what he looked like when they brought him in. Wheelchair, oxygen tank. They wheel him up in front of the judge, and he's like, I can't take more than a couple steps without needing oxygen, Judge. Judge is like, I normally don't do this, but I'm going to let you out without bond. A dozen days later, here's where I caught him, playing golf. So we got pictures. He got arrested. Yeah, he loved me. So Sam Bowers was convicted on August 21st, 1998, and sentenced to life in prison. And 3 more Klansmen have also followed him to prison that I've written about. And sometimes people see pictures like this and say, Jerry, why don't you just leave these old guys alone? And I tell them, the thing you don't understand, these are young killers who just happen to get old. There have been 24 men now that have gone to prison for these killings. I'm now working on the Mississippi burning case, 3 civil rights workers who were killed by the Klan, 2 suspects still alive in that case. But the same hate led to this killing a few months ago in Jackson. James C. Anderson, they just wanted to attack a black man, and that's what they did. 3 white teenagers attacked him, beat him, and ran him over with a truck and killed him. And, before there's hate, there's fear. And before there's fear, there's dehumanization, basically justifying the destruction of these people, which is horrible. But I've had a number of threats, had my life threatened. But the gift I've gotten is to learn to live fearlessly. And that's what I would urge you today to do. Living fearlessly doesn't mean living without fear. It means living beyond fear. And that's what I would encourage each of you today to do, to live beyond fear. To know, to stand up when someone tells a racist joke and say no. When someone degrades women, to stand up and say no. And so that you, too, can live lives that matter. Thank you very much.